Yeah, boy.
That shit's good enough to be on a playlist for the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's right.
Hell yeah. So,
That's right.
2 for 1. I know everybody's excited.
I know, man.
The dozens and dozens of Sober Heathen fans get a twofer in the day.
Like, we're back.
So,
man, Bruce was great this morning.
Absolutely.
Great. Put a lot of things I've been thinking about throughout the day. And one of the sticky points that I kept coming back to, because I've known about the neurological component with dopamine. And I've known that certain substances and behaviors and things increase dopamine. And we always say that artificial dopamine, or it's artificially elevated. Mm-hmm. And I've never quite been able to put what the craving aspect is of that artificial dopamine, put those two together. But the endorphin part makes sense, because the endorphins are the opiate of the body's own opiate system. Yeah. So when you look at it from that perspective of, we're increasing dopamine, which is the short term. I've used this example before. It's when you walk past the berries in the wilderness and you go, hey, that plant's got food. You learn real fast. That's instant gratification right there. That's what the dopamine does. The endorphin is that opiate system that provides the good feelings that your brain then learns long term. I keep doing that, I'm going to keep getting that reward. When you put those two together, that's where we start getting into the danger zone for people who might be predisposed. But at the same time, people who kind of put themselves in kind of an epigenetic situation, meaning their environment and just life in general, the stress of everything can increase all of that and make you more susceptible to getting into the kind of the addiction danger zone. I like how you put it on a spectrum, saying, everybody exists there somewhere. And for somebody, 2 bottles of wine a day is dangerous, and somebody 2 bottles of vodka is dangerous. So anyway, putting all that together, and I'm still processing all this, but putting all that together, I think once you get above a certain threshold, that's when the body, we were talking about right there at the end, after we turned the live off, the 3 of us, that's when you get to that situation where it's become habitual. And we've hit a new set point on our endorphin system as well. We've talked about set points with dopamine before, where dopamine keeps getting higher and higher and higher, and you have to have more and more and more in order to even feel the motivation to get out of bed. The same thing happens with that endorphin system. The more endorphin your brain's used to getting, the more it requires in order for you to feel good. Mm-hmm. So I was reflecting back on my own journey of sobriety and recovery. And at some point, I think, either through just some treatment, some kind of forced sobriety with the whole breathalyzer thing with my parents, I let my body's endorphin set point come back down to where I was right there on that buffer zone for a long time in that cycle of, sobriety, the craving get too much, cave in. Sobriety, the craving's too much, and cave in. Yeah. And I think somehow we go back to the psychological side of it, where I've talked about finding that belief of it's okay as long as they don't get caught, understanding that and going, well, it's not okay as long as they don't get caught. I just need to stop. something about that psychological trigger allowed me to get that endorphin set point a little bit lower to out of that dangerous kind of transition buffer zone.
Yeah.
Hope that makes sense, because it's literally just putting all those thoughts together kind of throughout the day.
Yeah, man, it makes sense after listening to Bruce. And so if you didn't listen to the podcast earlier today, it was about 10 a.m. Eastern time. You can find it back on YouTube. Miley and I started re-listening to it on the way home after dropping my kids off, and we might sit and watch it later tonight. I'm not sure, because there was a lot of information from Bruce. But what really strikes me with the way that Bruce explained this is it's all encompassing. Like, if it's trauma, that started you drinking, okay. If it's just partied and having a good time, if it was, hereditary in a way, all those things just started to mess up the reward system and start to give you, you drink and by constantly doing this habit over and over and over again, it rewired the system. And how you start it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does matter. As he said, some people can take the medicine and then to just be done with it. Other people need therapy and other things too. But I think this really just encompasses everybody on the spectrum, to use a word that you used. Like, there's no fixed reason why everybody or people become alcoholic, or what I like his term, endorphinaholic.
Yeah.
I like that a lot better. So instead of trying to figure out the why, and I've talked about this before, I bought into Gaber Mate, and I still think he's, a brilliant human, you know what I mean? But, and maybe I'm mischaracterizing his stuff. So, if you hear this, and I am, please send me a comment or a message and let me know. But, the way I understand it was like, it's trauma. It was all based on trauma. Addiction comes from trauma. And that made a lot of sense to me, and it could be, but I don't think that's it. So this Sinclair method, just takes care of the endorphins and the biological, the chemical side or whatever, and allows you to do the rest. When you go to abstinence base, you are fighting 100 different battles, and including your own mind. And that's the hardest one. And so you're trying to fight your mind that has been hijacked by repetitive behavior and, these spikes in endorphins. And then you're trying to work through trauma at the same time. That's like, God damn, my life already feels like it sucks because I'm not getting this reward that I was getting. And now I'm begrudging all these things that I've ever did wrong in my entire life and just compounding it on myself. It's a little different than what you were going after with the endorphin thing, man. But that's what I got from it. Like, it seems like it's all encompassing, and there's no
Well, to me, it was extremely refreshing to see the actual, and I'm just going to call it the physical side of it, because we're talking about the neurology and the neuroscience, the neurochemical aspect of the brain and how all that works, because that's exactly what the endorphin side is. When I would say addiction treatment, I mean, I would lump it pretty much all together, except for something like Sinclair or Suboxone or something like that, is all just the psychological, emotional side of it. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that I've always had a hang up with traditional recovery, is that it can't be all just psychological and emotional. There has to be something, because of what we know about how the brain works and about how neurology works, that says we've got levels out of whack up here. Mm-hmm. If we're going to call it a brain disease, every other brain disease has a neurochemical component where we're out of whack. That's why we give lithium to people who are severely depressed, to balance stuff out. So it makes sense, if there is a neurological component to addiction, which everybody says there is, that there has to be a neurological treatment component to that, to go along with the reasons why you hate yourself. Yeah. You can't treat just why you hate yourself, but then keep the physical portion that is not functioning properly. You got to fix them both.
Yeah. I think there's alcoholics out there that don't hate themselves. So
I didn't. I mean, until I started drinking, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, when I really reflect on it, it's like, the programs and treatments that I were in were focusing on all the bad that I did, and that made me not, I was already not liking myself for the decisions and the way my life was going. But then I focused on all the bad things that I did. It just compounded everything.
Yeah.
And please, anybody right now that their panties are starting to get on fire, it's like, it's not hating on treatment, because treatment helped me. I just took donations back to Harbor Hall in Petoskey, Michigan, where those people helped get me on the right track. They gave me a place where the outside, a safe place where the outside stuff wasn't affecting me. I could get some rest. I could be around people that are struggling with the same things that I was struggling with, and it was super helpful. And I owe them a lot, and that's why I try to go back once a year. It doesn't always work that way, and take some donations so those guys can have, the guys that come in with just a shirt on their back, they can have something else. Yeah. I'm not doing anything special. It's just a little bit of clothes that I pick up from friends and family that aren't using them anymore. So I'm not poo-pooing on any of it. It's just, I really feel like if this would have been an option for me earlier on, that this really might have saved me some real pain.
Absolutely. And, you said just a minute ago about there's alcoholics out there that probably don't hate themselves. And I've said this before, and I feel like when I talk to people who are in some form of recovery, who are sober and have gone about becoming sober from a traditional method, it very much is a conversation of basically my life sucked. I was using drugs, alcohol to numb that stuff, and I had to learn to either endure or change my life to where it doesn't suck. My life did not suck. My life when I started drinking did not suck. I was not an amoral person who had a 4-step list that was a mile long. My life started sucking when I was drinking so much, because I was getting such a massive endorphin rush, because I'm one of these people, I firmly believe now, that has an overactive endorphin response, like he was talking about, to alcohol. So I kept drinking more to keep trying to get that response that I just enjoyed getting, which eventually tipped the scales into having to drink. And then the consequences of constantly drinking spiral. And that's when I started not liking myself.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't because even when I was drinking, I wasn't doing bad things. I was just a lazy sack of shit. Right?
Yeah.
So I didn't like that about myself. So I completely, to me, this is why it makes the most sense. This has been probably the most relevant explanation to my own personal journey that I've heard.
100%.
And I mean, I've heard a little bit about the Sinclair, like you sent one of his talks with Katie to me while I was in Australia. And I remember clear as day watching it and listening to it while I was on the treadmill in the bottom of the hotel and going, oh my God, this is like light bulbs.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had that experience with AA in the beginning because it made a lot of sense, because that's all I knew. I didn't understand it. It makes sense. I'm a bad person. I've done bad things. Okay. I can buy into that. And then it didn't make any sense. And then Gaber Mate and other things, that makes sense. Well, and this right here just puts it all together. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I really like what he said too, that will really fluff a lot of feathers, is it's not an addiction to the alcohol itself. It's an addiction to the reaction that you get in your body. It's an endorphin addiction. And so I guess I'm an endorphaholic, as he called it. And I thought I'm not an alcoholic. You're addicted to endorphins.
And you know what, the best one of the best things he said to me, just a personal standpoint, because I've always had this question and nobody in any treatment center or any doctor has ever been able to answer it. Whenever naltrexone was presented, or the shot, the Vitrol, something like that, they would say, yeah, it works on the opiate receptors in the brain and it's going to blunt the effect of getting drunk. My question, what do you think my question was? Alcohol is not an opiate, so how does that work?
Right.
Well, it just works. Well, but alcohol is not an opiate. Alcohol doesn't work on opiate receptors. Why is that working?
Good point. Yeah.
the treatment community, the treatment professionals don't have the answer because they completely just automatically dismissed Sinclair method because you're supposed to drink while you're still doing it. And they're still stuck on the abstinence, black and white, dualistic, one up, one down, sobriety and recovery. And I think that is the biggest lesson, which it's still, I find myself going back to, that I have to catch my thinking on, is that sobriety, like 100% abstinence, does not have to be the answer for everybody.
Right.
And that's what we have traditionally always been taught, is like, well, if you can still drink with some control, then you're not an alcoholic. Which is why, one, I've always hated that term alcoholic, because I know plenty of people who are functioning alcoholics, drink just fine. They drink way too much. Their life sucks. They have a good idea that the alcohol is part of it, but they're not in trouble, so to speak.
Yeah, and I don't know what kind of rabbit hole I want to go down on this stuff at this time of night, but I'm going to go back to one thing first, and then I'll come back to that point. Like, when I said at the end of the podcast, he didn't make me feel stupid. I kind of felt silly for what I said. I said, you still have to have the discipline to take the pill. You still got to be ready to make those changes. And, his comment was simply, and I don't remember what the comment was, but basically what he was saying was, you present somebody that has been dependent on alcohol, and not just dependent like physically, like dependent to cope and to survive and to, exist. And you say, I need you to quit this now, and you can never do it again. Or you say, I want you to take this pill and continue drinking as you are, and then we'll address it again in a couple weeks or a month or whatever, and we'll see where you're at and see how you feel.
Yeah.
Holy crap. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
sign me up, dude. Because I wanted to drink, but at the same time, I didn't want to drink.
Yeah.
And so somebody explained that to me earlier on, man, and it's like, And so going to the thing that I was going to bring up that I wasn't sure if I wanted to, because of where I work and everybody that comes in, they come in with their yellow papers for the court system. It's not about mind-altering drugs to the courts. And I can say that because if you have a marijuana card, you can smoke pot and you can test positive in most cases. And that's totally fine. So what's the difference?
Yeah.
What's especially if, it wasn't a drunk driving, I guess I get if it's drunk driving, you want to test them to make sure they're not drinking and drive. But what's the difference with the marijuana? You know what I mean? If I went and got a card right now, and I was on probation, they're letting most people do that. And it just makes no sense. But that's a rabbit hole of the system and the double standards and the made up bullshit that these assholes that don't know anything about it, watch, I'll have a PO, listen to this. I'm not talking, this is a generalized statement. You know what I mean? Like, I had to wear an alcohol monitor for, many months on my last DUI conviction. But I wasn't drug testing, so I could have been high as a kite that entire time. So it's not about the mind altering thing. It's about control. And it's about, and I do believe that there's a focus on alcohol because it's everywhere. Not everybody likes pot. Not everybody likes the feeling of that. They don't like the smell, that it's not normalized to walk into a weed store and come out with a bag of weed like it is to walk out with a 24 pack or a fifth.
Yeah.
I just, and this is, we can reel it back in after this, man. I'm sorry. But like, I just feel that we're going about this in 50 different ways and none of it makes sense and aligns at all.
And the whole reason why the court system's tied up in the abstinence only thing, I mean, you know exactly why. It goes back to Marty Mann and that coalition of getting basically the legal system and the medical system to go, you know what, we don't know what to do with them. Y'all have something that seems to be working. You take care of it.
Right.
Hands off. We don't, fuck it.
Yeah, and go ahead and read the US of AA book. I can't remember the author, Adam, if you remember who that is off the top of your head, but I can probably find it here in 2 seconds. But US of AA kind of lays it out, the entire journey of Bill and Bob trying to get funding to get this thing off the ground. And they went to the Rothschilds, I think it was, or the Rockefellers. I'm not sure which ones they went to. They tried to get funding, and they just really couldn't get the thing going. And then
Joe Miller.
Yeah, check out the book by Joe Miller, The US of AA. And he kind of really lays it out on that whole process and what Marty Mann, what she played in this entire thing and getting AA intertwined in the treatment field and in this judicial system.
Yep.
So what else you think about the talk, man? Anything else that
I've got tons of questions, and they're more so really, like I said, just kind of me putting a lot of this into play. I know I've showed you that addiction pathways map that I drew like a year ago, and kind of, let's see if I can pull it up real fast.
Yeah.
How do I share this screen again, right? It's the plus button, right? Share screen?
I believe so, yeah.
Let's see here. We want... I had it pulled up.
Yeah, so kind of I was looking for that. If you want to learn more from Bruce, find him on TikTok, and you can watch, look up Rethink Drink. I don't remember his username. I want to feel like his username has something to do with the Sinclair method. But again, if anybody wants, just reach out, and I'll send you a link to his stuff. Also, Katie with Thrive Recovery. She's all over the place on X and TikTok and doing conversations just like these very frequently. And if you want to dive into those things to learn more about the Sinclair method, I recommend it. Give it a shot.
All right, let's see if this works. Woo! Can you see that?
Hell yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, I did this sitting on a plane one day because a lot of stuff just kind of came to me at once. Some of this stuff over here, like recurring life events, limiting beliefs, childhood traumas, that's stuff that we talked about. It's kind of the emotional aspects of it, the stuff like that. But the excessive cheap dopamine is where I've always kind of been stuck because, like I said earlier, it makes sense, but at the same time, it doesn't quite really fit. I'm going to change this out to, excessive endorphins. They, got to add in something about that's the rush,
yeah,
which kind of goes back to the compromised neurochemistry and stuff. So, like I said, I've been trying to put together like a all-encompassing map of what it is. Like, not everybody's going to hit every one of those check boxes, every one of those bubbles on there, but addiction has got all those pathways, and if we had a map that shows all the different components, I think it helps people put it into perspective on the things that they can do a personal inventory on and go, you know what, I don't have any major childhood traumas that I've really got to go. Maybe this really was just a physical addiction that spiraled out of control for me, and I really need to look at that. Yeah. Or maybe there is some type of childhood something or other that's been holding you back, that's constantly making you feel like you are not good enough and that you have to constantly berate yourself. So really for me, the biggest takeaway is it was, like I said, it was this missing component into this just massive framework of what addiction is that I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah, and the explanation of I think it was nanograms that he was putting it in, sex and good food and, biking and the things that you like to do on a normal basis was something like 95 nanograms release of endorphins in your brain. I'm
assuming he was like nanograms per deciliter of blood. I don't know. He never really. Yeah.
Well, and I don't know how, to use his words, how nerdy he wanted to get on it, but
right.
You and I think would be okay with more nerdy, and maybe we'll dive into that, have him on again. But I wonder, do the normal drinkers, if we have to put a label on it, I hate that shit, so let me try that again. The people that can drink without issue, I wonder if they're getting like a 95 hit from it. You know what I mean? Like
The people that have the ability to hit the stop button.
Yeah. I wonder if they're like right at 95. They get the same kind of pleasure-ish that sex and food and other things give everybody. And then, like he was saying, the endorphinaholics, they get like a spike of 1,000. And so, I mean, just think of that. You have $95 or $1,000. What the difference is in that. And, talk about like, wow, like, and we talked about it in the podcast, man. When I pretend in my first real attempt at recovery and I fake drank a half pint and I felt something, and then I've had 2 clients since do the same thing and said they did too, the brain's like, oh, here we go, excrete. I don't excrete's the right word, but release whatever endorphins, like I'm wondering if like,
Well, it makes complete sense because
it does. It really does.
Assuming that in one of your treatments, you heard the same exact thing was, you didn't start, you would have the craving, you'd have the craving until you decided, fuck it, I'm going to go to the liquor store. And as soon as you made that decision,
yeah,
relief started coming, no matter if you drank it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly why. And that's where the learned behavior comes in. It's cause and effect. And the cause is not the alcohol. The cause is the elevated set point of where you need endorphin levels at to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
The effect then is the drinking. It's not drinking and endorphins. It's you're so used to having $1,000 worth of endorphins that you're down here at $100 and you go, wait a second, I need that extra 900.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, forget it.
You need a spiritual experience to recover. I'm wondering if that spiritual experience is finding something else to give you a fresh endorphin hit.
So I started to bring that up and decided against it because I didn't want to really go down that hole. But yeah, you said it at one point. You said, do we trade one addiction for another?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say we have both said that multiple times over the last few years. I think now I would change that. Did we trade one endorphin releasing response for another?
Yeah.
Because you get a rush of endorphin from community aspects.
Yeah.
And if you're really tapped into a spiritual experience, I'm assuming that somehow you can get kind of a placebo endorphin response from that too. I don't know. I'm just,
Yeah, and that's the thing. You just said it right there. We don't know, but we're talking about it and we're kind of, thinking this thing through, and
yeah,
these are questions that I know that we're not alone in thinking, you know what I mean? I know that has to be the case. So, we're not giving advice. We're talking things through and you make your own decision. That's the difference between this and something else that you might hear.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
But I think you're exactly right. Is if you, and it's a learned. I would say that the relief that one would feel from working the steps and being involved in an AA community, if they're truly bought in with no reservations whatsoever, it's a learned behavioral response, just like drinking is.
Yeah.
I mean,
if
it helps you tap into a spiritual solution, then even better.
Yeah. I know when I think back when I did the steps the first time with a sponsor and then we went outside and burned them, I felt accomplishment, which is probably a release of feel-good chemicals too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Lots of endorphins right there.
Yeah. And so, I get it. I get it, an accomplishment and like, oh yeah, hey, I did this, so I'm on my way. And then, but it wasn't sustainable. I couldn't repeat that feeling over and over again like I could with alcohol. And, like I kept thinking about video games. Like when I first got sober, I didn't like playing video games anymore because, I would drink and play video games and they just weren't giving me that thing. Now I'm back and I get the same enjoyment that I used to get beforehand. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I keep going back to, the endorphin thing. If addiction, if spiritual experience was the solution to addiction, and I think about this from my own personal standpoint because I know how certain other things affect me. Sugar, for example. This is why this is another nail in the coffin for me as to what the actual problem is. There are times where I get a craving for sugar. I mean, absolutely. Because from an endorphin standpoint, donuts, cookies, whatever, sweets, they provide that endorphin rush. So take that same kind of metaphor and apply it to every meeting you've been at. What are the other major chemicals that we're downing at meetings, right?
Yeah.
Nicotine, caffeine, and sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And so that to me shows you that it's the steps, it has nothing to do with addiction.
Yeah.
I think we have to, again, there is no one set official agreed upon definition of addiction because everybody seems to have their own. If we had that definition of addiction, meaning using something to the point where you are no longer in control of it and it's causing, problems in your life, then it's so vague and ambiguous. But if you made it to where it's a physical dependency, this is where I get pushback all the time on X, on comments. They'll go, well, you're not talking about addiction. You're talking about physical dependency. Like, well, the body is the part that's addicted.
Mm-hmm.
If we come out and set that definition, then things would smooth out. And I think recovery and sobriety would become much more streamlined and easier for everybody.
Yeah, just understanding what's going on. You know what I mean? Does it make more sense to be told that, your brain, excuse me, your brain's reward system is being hijacked, and after a certain amount of time, it becomes harder and harder, and then the cravings are actually yearning for those endorphins. Your brain is telling you need to do this, like literally telling you need to do this, or is it that you're spiritually sick, and you need to find some power outside of you? I mean, again, this is just me talking. This isn't me hating. So relax. I'm just saying which one makes sense. It might make sense to you because it's working for you. But in my experience with the majority of people I know, that's not how it works. Or that's not what helps most people. So that's just, I mean, I don't know, man. It's like, like just hearing like the science of it and seeing, a different perspective is so refreshing because it gives me hope for all these people that are in the position that we were at one point. And maybe it'll help them come up with something new. You know what I mean? Like, and we were kind of beneficial too, because, while AA is still intertwined in everything, whether for me, the justice system and, other people going into treatment or whatever, it's still not as hard nosed as it was before. You know what I mean? Like you have a little leeway, guess. Yeah.
Seeing a little bit of, I don't know. Your front lines on it, so.
I mean, so now it's like, I run peer groups and I don't have to do anything, with AA literature in them or the steps or anything like that. And now, there's another group around here called Peer 360, which is like a Native American based thing. So there's other groups out there cropping up. There's not a stranglehold on the peer support like there used to be.
Okay. So, and the court system is recognizing that as like
about shit. I had to ask a client 3 times the other day when she said that her PO recommended my groups. I was like, I'm sorry, what?
You want me to sign your slip?
No, I've been signing slips, but what was shocking to me was she's like, yeah, go to Scott's group. It's really good. I think you should go to Scott's group. And I was like, this PO is saying that? And so, I mean, look, all we do is we're people sitting around a room just talking about, the good and the bad, and we go home.
Yeah.
And that's what people need.
It shows you're doing something right.
Yeah. We'll see.
Awesome.
So I don't know what your schedule looks like, man. Somebody, and I've been asked this question more than once, like, did you have a bad experience in AA or something? And it's like, I had a lot of great experiences and I had a lot of bad experiences, but that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about today. Like, nothing to do with it. It's what I believe is the right approach. And, I feel like I mostly call out the assholes when there's somebody that's like, yeah, I've been in AA for 30 years and doing great, but to each their own. I'm not like, why are you still in AA after 30 years? Why are you doing that?
I've asked that before.
Well, so I mean, it's a question. To me, it's a legitimate question. I don't want to be in recovery and stuck to have to go to a meeting for 30 years the rest of my life. That's not recovery to me. That's not freedom from the addiction to me. That's what we talk about all the time. But if that's what works for you and that's what you want to do and that makes you happy, I don't care. It's when the people come in here and just be like, well, if you're not you, I have literally been told that I'm not doing AA anymore, so I really wasn't a real alcoholic. And it's like, motherfucker, dude, I got 4 drunk drivings on my record.
Yeah.
I had a fiance that kicked me out. I had a marriage that I got a divorce from. My kids didn't talk to me on the phone for like a year. I didn't see them in person for 2 years. I lost 2 really good paying jobs because of my drinking. But yeah, you're right. I wasn't a real alcoholic.
Yeah. To me, it's the hypocrisy like that about, don't take somebody else's inventory and all this other stuff, all these bylines and just sayings that get thrown around casually that you see contradictions to all the time.
Yeah.
I'm so, but I'm a real alcoholic. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not.
Dude, Bill fucked up. When he was going in the big book and talking about the moderate drinker, the heavy drinker, and the real alcoholic, he fucked up because he didn't. Go ahead.
I just put this together. He's talking about a spectrum right there, and he just didn't know it.
Right.
He's talking about the spectrum of alcohol use disorder and just didn't realize it because you have a moderate drinker and a heavy drinker, which are considered socially acceptable. And the real alcoholic is the person who has tipped the scale into the point where the endorphins are taking over their ability to hit the stop button. He's talking about it, right?
Yeah.
And the groups are taking it literally to mean there's an actual definition of what real alcoholic is.
And when I said that was not a hate on Bill W. I think the guy was a little bit ahead of his time way back then, trying to think of new ways to approach this thing. I was actually defending him the other day, and when I said that I don't believe that he said that for you to put other people on that spectrum or label other people.
Yeah.
It's to diagnose yourself. And with that, am I a moderate drinker? Am I a heavy drinker? Or am I an alcoholic? Well, here's a list of things that real alcoholics do that we believe real alcoholics do. So figure it out for yourself if you are. And then if you are, then, try these steps. And that's great. I think that's great. And but it's these fucking guys and girls that come in here and like, well, you weren't a real alcoholic. If you only need 1 meeting a week, you weren't a real alcoholic. Yeah. What are you doing? And we're killing people. And I'm sure you've been told that, Adam. Bruce said it today. I know I have. You are going to kill somebody. People have told me. You're going to kill somebody because I don't agree that Bill meant for you to judge other people with that diagnostic that he was, or those descriptions that he was giving.
Yep. I 100% agree with that.
So I think if you or anybody out there are struggling, I think you need to try everything that you possibly can to get your life on the right track. That's the bottom line. And if that's going to AA, going to church, if that's standing on your head for 30 minutes a day, if that's jogging, working out, whatever it is, give it a shot. But I think today we had a really good insight into a method that isn't new. It's been around 35 years, I think you said. But it's showing some really great success. And I think people should give it a shot. Talk about it. Talk about it with your physician.
I want to reiterate, because this is where it gets the most pushback, in my opinion. Sinclair method is not a magical pill fix-all.
Right.
Like the one guy said, "Oh, so I can get drunk without any consequences." No, if that is your definition of success, then I don't think you really listened to anything that was taught in the meetings. But the whole point is to be able to have that start-stop button again, if that's what you want. So it only affects the neurological component. If you got shit in your life that you got to clean up, that whole I got to clean my side of the street, you still got to clean your side of the street.
I'm a felon with 4 drunk drivings, Adam. I drank without consequences 95% or more of the time.
Yeah.
So that's, you're looking at it all wrong.
Yeah.
When you approach it that way. Most of my drinking was without consequence.
Same. I should have multiple DUIs.
Yeah. So I hope that we all can get on the same page and know that we're all trying to help people, right? Like, okay, not everybody. The ones that I kind of talked about, I don't think I think they're in it for their own ego. But I think most people, even when we disagree on the pathway or the way to approach it, like I had a guy, I made a comment on something and the guy's like, back on the sauce. And I was like, oh, that's creative. The Sober Heathen. Yeah, good one, buddy. And then he goes, and I think he looked through my profile and saw what I was posting. He's like, that was a low blow. I'm very sorry. And then him and his wife went and subscribed to the channel. And I hope they get to listen today but it's like, yeah, my bad. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to have these disagreements, but we're never going to learn if we can't have an open discussion about it.
Yeah. I've used this metaphor many times is, if you look at recovery as building a house, you hear this all the time is, oh, you got to have a solid, stable foundation if you're going to build a house. Most people keep trying to build a solid, stable foundation. And then they go, no, foundation needs to be more stable. No, foundation's got to be stronger. No, I need more support over here. I need more foundation over here. They spend 30 years doing that and they never build the fucking house.
Yeah.
At some point, you got to go, I've got a solid, stable foundation. It's time to frame the house up. It's time to do the wiring and plumbing, put sheetrock on, paint it. At some point, move on. Do what you need to do to maintain the solid, stable foundation, but then build your life on top of that. Stop focusing on the foundation exclusively.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you live in fear every day of alcohol today, Adam?
Not at all.
Yeah, me either. And
not at all.
That's not enticing. And some might say, well, that's the truth. And if you don't do that, then, you're never going to make it. Well, 2 examples sitting in front of you in the screen right now. I no longer feel like we choose to sit here and talk about this because we want to help people. It's not because we need to be here or we're going to be at the bar in 5 seconds.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Outside of what I do on here with you or when I write stuff, put it on X, I'm not thinking about alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a life.
Yeah. I'm gonna end this live here in about 5 seconds and go do a guilty pleasure. And naughty people, don't take that the wrong way. But Miley and I are going to watch some WWE, and I'm not going to think twice about freaking alcohol. I'm going to have an ice cold Dr. Pepper, maybe some popcorn, and enjoy myself. And I won't think about alcohol again today or again until I get to work and somebody comes in and wants to talk about it.
Yep. Yep. Got a recipe for you. Dr. Pepper ribs.
What is it?
Dr. Pepper ribs.
Yeah.
Sauce out of Dr. Pepper.
We just had rock and rye pulled pork yesterday, and send it on over, man.
All right,
buddy. Well, thanks for the recap again. Bruce is on 10 o'clock this morning, so you can find that over on YouTube. I'm not paying to get the podcast sent out to Spotify and iTunes at this time. But if you sub enough on YouTube, I might be able to do that too. So head on over there and click it. Yeah, selfless plug there. But
there you go.
Yeah. So you have a good rest of your night, my friend, and we'll talk soon. Night, everybody.